speaker is Angelina Mensah, and she's the focal point and national government expert on gender and climate change for Ghana, working with the Environmental Protection Agency. And she's also involved in conducting extensive research on gender and climate change in her country, as well as related issues such as public health, population, and environmental sustainability. Angelina.
Hello, my name is Angelina. I'm from Ghana. Is that Petra I see sitting there? Hi. Yeah, Petra was behind this work that I'm going to present. It's the socio-economic and policy drivers of land use and land management and adaptation to climate change in the Bawku District. On the form, it's supposed to be Bawku and Ejusu, but because of time, I'm just taking Bawku because of certain critical issues that is there. The outline is the introduction, West Africa map in Ghana, the research location, Ghana with its vulnerability sectors, Bawku District, climate impact on women and way forward. The introduction is trying to say that if we do not take action, climate change will be another burden to the gains that Ghana has made and to our Ghana poverty reduction strategy and the Millennium Development Goals. This is because most of the vulnerable sectors are impacted by climate, and this is to do with women and women's livelihoods. Majority of these women, who form 50%, are in the agricultural labor force and are highly dependent on climate-sensitive sectors. These same livelihood activities also contribute 46% to the total GDP of the country. And these women produce 70% of subsistence crops and distribute 85% of fish and crop produce in the country. This is the map of Ghana with its neighbors. I would want us to have a look at this side, and this is where Bawku is. And this is Burkina Faso and its impact on Burkina Faso and the northern, on Bawku and the northern sector of the country. I may not come back to the map, but I just want to take note because I'll explain further. The research location is Bawku District in the Upper East region of Ghana. It occupies about 2,670 kilometers, and the district capital is Bawku. The objectives of the study is to assess the social, economic, and policy drivers of land use changes, land management options, and adaptation to climate change. The research methods used focus group discussions, semi-structured questionnaire to explore landscape and farming system dynamics. We also identified and evaluated drivers of land use and used participatory methods to assess social networks. Also cognitive mental modeling to assess farmers' perception of poverty, risk, and vulnerability. This is the map of Ghana and the vulnerable sectors. We have agriculture, water resources, energy, tourism, natural resources, health, and these all have gender issues within them. This is the map of Bawku. And the vulnerability issues in Bawku are women's land rights, flooding, droughts, conflict, energy, health, and education. Land in Bawku is limited, arable land is limited, and it is viewed as a source of wealth, social status, and power. Land also has significant cultural and religious and legal value. To access land, it is through inheritance or marriage. So when you divorce, you have no access to land as a woman in the northern region where Bawku is. There are positive and negative cultural practices with inherent gender biases. And some of them is the limited land rights women use when they marry, and also when they have to cultivate certain portions of their husband's lands. And then men do a lot of the clearing. And so in that case, they have access to virgin lands, and this makes them owners of the land. There's also gender disparity in cropping, carrying, and marketing of the produce. Men cultivate cash crops, and women do the maize and the peppers and the onions. And this affects their economic power as women. Flooding. There are erratic seasonal trends with phenomenal extremities, and this leads to the overflow of many rivers and their tributaries. As I mentioned, Burkina Faso, which is up, has a dam called the Bagari Dam. So when it rains so heavily, they open the dams and they spill off into the water lake in Ghana. And this water lake is where we get our hydropower. But in the event, most of the women and men around Bawku lose their arable lands for farming. And so this results in unprecedented destruction of life and property, leading to unimaginable humanitarian challenges in the affected areas, and women are the most affected. Drought. There's late drought, which normally leads up to drying of the bodies, of water bodies. Women and children have to walk several miles to get food, fuel, and water. And this also has led to migration of the youth, especially the girl child, to southern Ghana. When these girl child get to Ghana, they do a kind of job called kayayu, that is the porters. And girls as young as 9 years are involved in this. They have nowhere to sleep. And some of them get raped, some of them get their money stolen. And no matter how hard you try to prepare them to send them back, because of events like the drought and the flooding, they have no desire to go back to Bawku. These are some of the stories that is being told. There's also conflict. Endemic conflict is a feature of Bawku. And these have implications for social relations and women, domestic violence and sexual violence. And in the event of cleanup, the women do it in an unhygienic manner. And on some occasions, I didn't want to show the picture, but you see the men sitting under trees, drinking pito, and the women will be cleaning up, and also having to cook for the men in the process as they clean up. This also has negative consequences because there's migration and local knowledge is eroded. Also, it has effect on productivity. It also has implications for human and national security for the country. The people who have left Bawku to go to down south occupy a place called Sodom and Gomorrah in Accra. And most of the civil rights that happens in Ghana starts from Sodom and Gomorrah. Energy. I'm just going to talk about just a little bit of energy. We are advocating for an alternative source of energy. And people are saying we should use Jethrofa. But I just want to say that it has serious implications for women, their livelihoods, and their sexual productive. What is happening in Ghana is that they've taken all their lands up north. The chiefs have sold the lands, arable lands, and these foreigners, if I have to put it, have acquired these lands. They cannot even crop maize. If you compare it with cocoa, cocoa is an indigenous product, and it's the Ghanaians themselves who are managing it. But with Jethrofa, these are foreigners. So when the women or the men go hungry, they cannot go back to the farm. But with cocoa, if you're hungry, you can then crop any crop that you want. So this is the problem. Now, Jethrofa saps water from the soil. So we have dubbed it the vampire. Secondly, girls are using this as an abortion, for abortion. And this is a newspaper report. I don't know whether you can read it very well. It's a newspaper report, and the medical doctors are speaking about it. Girls have died because of Jethrofa. And so we need to actually be very cautious as the promotion of these energy resources. Health. This is also another area where the women in Bawku and northern part of Ghana are having serious problems. We have the CSM, the meningitis, and this is climate-induced. But some of the women are being branded witches because of CSM. So there's a witches camp. And this is a witch camp where the woman is. So these women and their children, they have been having babies. And I ask myself, who impregnates these women? They are supposed to be in camps. And these children do not go to school. These women have no livelihood. They have no access to anything. And so these are some of the issues that we face in the country. Education. The levels of education is low, even worse for the girls. And in the context being described, some girls have to leave school to care for families. Children of women in the witches' camps have no access to education. The way forward. We have the Ghana Poverty Reduction Strategy, but climate change has not been mainstreamed. We also have women in agriculture and development. They've mainstreamed gender into it. But in the north, it's a patriarchal society as everywhere anyway, but everything is patrilineal. And it is very difficult to make inroads to solve the issues of gender, especially with women. We have land administrative project, which also is looking at land and what has to be done for the women. Unfortunately, we haven't made any inroads there. There's another project, the Savannah Accelerated Project, which is still consulting to put in gender